Tommy Jaggi of Fansided here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher. Talk preseason week 2 and some of the wild things and decisions going on around the NFL right now. The Browns have a decision to make at quarterback. The Steelers don't know what they're doing with Joey Porter Jr. yet. We're going to talk about some of the big trending news around the NFL, Marcus. But first, your overall thoughts on preseason week 2.
Preseason week 2 is funny because this used to be the time where we'd start seeing these teams ramp up and playing more veterans and sometimes even like for the entire first half. And it seems like it's kind of the opposite now, where we see some veterans in the first half, the first game, and then these teams are now really scaling it back. And week 2 and week 3 of the preseason have become, I don't want to say almost unwatchable, but pretty close, and teams are putting more value into these joint practices around the league. I think, if anything, Tommy, that this preseason just got me fired up for real football, which we're going to get here in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm excited for the games to actually start mattering.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's been kind of dull so far, so we'll see what happens here really soon. One more exhibition contest before we get to the regular season. Let's start right with the Browns and their just bizarre quarterback situation. The Cleveland's going with Deshaun Watson as their starter over Shedeur Sanders. I can't make sense of it. Browns fans can't make sense of it. It's not that I'm the biggest Shedeur fan. It's that there's 100 reasons not to start Deshaun Watson. He's been out of football forever. He's got the track record. His fan base is not behind him, and he made that known too when he spoke to the media that he feels more welcome at road games than he does at home. Well, that should tell you something. I've even heard, Marcus, Browns fans saying they should boycott the team essentially and just not go to games. There's every reason not to play Watson. And we just got another example of that in preseason week 2 when he had a dreadful performance. And it was, I mean, as bad as it gets. He came in. He was not the first quarterback to come in. That was Shedeur. He came in with the second team and played with the third team. He played against third team players, 5 of 12 for 36 yards. That is 3 yards an attempt, 0 touchdowns, and interception. Had a 14.6 pass rating. The interception was on an arid pass that was airmailed out there. He had one good throw that I watched the whole game over the middle of the field, but his receiver was wide open. He had to slide for the football. This is not the same Deshaun Watson that we watched back in the day in the Houston Texans. Like, what are the Browns doing here?
So, I mean, I agree with all of the points that you just made. I think the only counter that I would have is if Shedeur Sanders or Taylon Green or Dylan Gabriel was significantly better than Watson in these practices, they would probably be the starter. And I think at the very worst, we can say that it was just very close between all these quarterbacks and they weren't particularly good. And I'm going to zag a little bit here. I do kind of understand starting Deshaun Watson in the first couple games of the season, but it's backwards logic, right? Yeah. I think the idea, Tommy, is you put Watson out there the first couple games of the year, and if he stinks, then you pull him and put Shedeur in, and now your fan base is really, really happy, right? Like, you kind of wash your hands of the Deshaun Watson situation. If it goes well and Watson plays good football, great. Your team is probably doing pretty well. I don't know that you could have done it the other way, right? What if you would have started Shedeur early in the year and he really struggles? I don't think your fan base is going to want you to suddenly go to Deshaun Watson, right? I think you're kind of stuck with Shedeur. And I think that's the only way that this makes a little bit of sense. I think the other part of it that at least is notable to me, I think this is the Browns or the Cleveland's front office signaling our franchise quarterback is not on the roster. We know that this is going to be a completely revamped room in 2027. And we're not trying to fool anybody here. That's why we're going with Watson. We're going to pay him out this year. He's going to be on the team regardless. Let's play him and we'll reset next year.
Yeah, and I do get it from that regard. You can't go back the other way. You don't want to start Shedeur and then say, whoops, we're going to go with the older player who nobody likes, and we're going to put him out there even though he's not very good either. You'd rather start Watson and then go to Shedeur. Or best case scenario, you start Shedeur all year long. He looks like maybe something for you. He looks like he can be competent in Todd Monken's offense. But apparently, Watson has been the better quarterback during practices. He hasn't looked good in the preseason, and there's a lot of questions there. But I think we both know that quarterback is not on the roster yet. And so at the end of the day, like, this is it's going to be one of those years for Cleveland again, I think, where they're just going to try to find things out before they make that big quarterback swing next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, the most important part of this season for Cleveland isn't the quarterback, right? It's everybody else. It's the offensive line. Can they have a functional offensive line after spending all the resources there? Do Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston look like keepers? Because I think in theory, the next quarterback that is drafted by the Browns could be walking into a pretty good situation.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare it to like what Caleb Williams walked into in Chicago, but maybe a similar situation where you've got weapons, you've got an offensive line that's young and improving. That's not the worst case scenario if you're an Arch Manning or a Dylan Gabriel or a CJ Carr this year.
Marcus, how much does appeasing the fan base matter in this situation? Because they're completely out on Watson, and I don't blame them. I mean, he got, what was it, 230 million guaranteed on that contract, the first ever like fully guaranteed contract. They haven't earned a penny of it so far. How much would you, what lengths would you go to try to keep your fan base here still?
It's a really good question because I've been thinking about that a lot over the last couple of days. I think it matters, but I also think Browns fans know that this is not a long-term situation, right? Like Deshaun Watson's not going to be on this team next year, almost regardless of how he plays this year. And you're trying to do what's best for the football players on your team right now. I think once we get into the season, I think it's going to matter a lot less once the games actually start, because now you can start focusing on the other players like Concepcion and Jared Verse and Denzel Boston. But do they have a right to be angry? Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. We are going to move on to our next subject here. And actually, let's go to who should the Falcons start at week 1? And this is a question that's been ongoing for months now. It's, you got Tua Tagovailoa, you've got Michael Penix. One of these guys is going to be the Falcons quarterback. If it were up to me, and again, you spend a first round pick on Penix, but he's had multiple knee injuries. He's 26 years old already. So there's a good chance he's not the future of this team. Should you just go right to Tua and say, this division is wide open? He's maybe the more accurate, more competent quarterback at this point. And who knows, maybe 8 or 9 wins can get you the NFC South.
I mean, you get to 9 wins in the NFC South, you're probably winning that division going away. I mean, honestly, I think that division is going to be pretty easily the worst in the NFL yet again this year. So I do think if you're Atlanta, you've got to try to figure out, okay, which quarterback gives us the best chance of getting to 8 or 9 wins? And I still think it's Penix. And it's just because when you have a quarterback who is so afraid of getting hit, it really limits what you can do on offense. And I understand why Tua is afraid of getting hit. I think everybody understands what's going on here. You just can't play quarterback that way in the NFL. And I think Penix, for all of the injury concerns that he is more willing to stand in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. And that's just not something that we've seen from Tua really at all over the last 2 years. I think if Penix is healthy enough to play, you start him, and then you go to Tua if he's unable to hold up. I just don't see the upside with Tua in a Kevin Stefanski offense.
I do feel like that is the option that gives you at least a glimmer of hope. Go with Penix, go with the younger guy, the big armed quarterback, and see if he can finally figure things out. He's looked good at times. It's just he's got to be able to stay healthy. He has shown willingness to stand in there. Is this the guy that Kevin Stefanski wants? Is he going to look for a quarterback like starting next year? I think it's possible, but I just don't know what Tua brings for you anymore rather than just like baseline starter performance. And maybe that's enough to win this division. If Stefanski's thinking bigger picture here, though, I think that Penix is probably the right play in this situation. All right. If you are a fan of football, you are tuned into Stacking the Box for NFL fans. Come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up fansided.com, powered by the passionate fans at Fansided. And if you like football, you came to the right place, because MyBookie has just what you need to put a little action on the game. You don't need to be an expert. Just find a play you like, take a shot. It's really that easy. That's why I like MyBookie. You can find the action you want and bet on it wherever you are, even as the game is about to kick off. If you're new to the club, no sweat. The Bet Back bonus gives you protection on your first play. Sign up with promo code Stacking the Box to opt into the Bet Back bonus and take your first shot risk-free. If your wager loses, no worries. You'll get your money right back. No questions asked. Football is back. Join and cash in on the season with MyBookie. Must be 21 plus, 18 plus in select jurisdictions. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net for free, confidential 24/7 support. All right, Marcus, let's move on and talk about, are you buying Geno Smith in his comeback attempt in New York? Now, this is a quarterback. We saw a couple of really good seasons in Seattle, but are those days gone behind us now? What do you make of this whole Geno Smith situation? We have seen situations, you think of Sam Darnold's the most recent one comes in mind, where a cornerback that's kind of been tossed to and fro ends up having a couple of really good seasons. Are we too far gone from Geno Smith to be able to see a true comeback season like that? And what can he really do in a division that has the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots? Like, what's the end game here?
I'm glad that we're talking about this because I actually thought Geno Smith looked really good against the Steelers. And again, we should not put a ton of stock into the preseason, but it just looked like a quarterback who was confident, who was healthy, and who was trusting his offensive line. He went 7 of 7 for, I believe, 65 yards, had a touchdown against some of Pittsburgh's starting defense. They were without TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Joey Porter, who we're going to talk about in just a second. But I think it's just a reminder of how much the situation does matter, because last year in Las Vegas, it was Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly running I don't know what. The offensive line was a mess. Brock Bowers gets hurt in week 1. They don't really have any other receivers that they can rely upon. So what do you expect Geno Smith to do? I think he really struggled. Now you get him into an offense with Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, who looked really good against Pittsburgh, an offensive line that's pretty young. You've got some talented running backs, including Breece Hall. I don't think the Jets are going to compete for a division title in the AFC East. But would I be surprised if Geno Smith is the best quarterback that the Jets have had since Mark Sanchez? No, I wouldn't. I mean, I just think he can be a competent starting quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about a low bar. There's a pretty low one in New York. So why couldn't he be? And I 100% agree with that. I think that if comparing it to what the Jets have previously had is the bar, I think he can top that. How far above and beyond, I don't know. But, I mean, you mentioned it. He did have a really good game against the Steelers. Actually only played one drive. He was 7 of 7, 65 yards and a touchdown, 9.3 yards an attempt, 144.9 passer rating. The Jets had seen enough. Don't need to play anymore. Looked really competent. He's got weapons now. Garrett Wilson can get open with the best of them. You got Omar Cooper Jr. in the first round. You drafted a tight end. And so I think that they are they're going to be a more competent offense than they've been in years. And I go back to this with Geno Smith. It's just such a weird career trajectory where he was a starter his first 2 seasons. Things did not go well. Back in 2014, he led his team to a 3-10 record. Then the next 7 years, he only made 5 NFL starts in that entire span. And so he didn't become an actual good starting quarterback until his age 32 season in 2022, where he made back-to-back Pro Bowls. Is he too far removed from that player now, though? That's the question that I come back to, because he had a winning record 3 seasons as a starter in Seattle. But last year with the Raiders, he hit rock bottom. I mean, he led his team to a 2-13 record. And typically you want your quarterback to elevate the play of the players around you, even though the Raiders were not the most talented football team. 19 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 6.8 yards per attempt. Like, it was pretty underwhelming stuff. Can he bounce back from that? And how much better are the Jets than the Raiders to be able to believe that he can do this at age 36 now?
I think the Jets are in a much better spot than a lot of us anticipate. Now, they lack elite talent on defense, and the talent that they do have is older, whether it's Demario Davis or Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's a very much unproven defense, right? But on offense, I do think they have a lot of weapons, and I am just interested to see if Geno Smith can be competent, because if he can be a competent quarterback, maybe that's all the Jets need to have to kind of unlock all these pieces. We've seen Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall just straddled by bad quarterbacks. And maybe this is a team that can be not a playoff team, but 7 or 8 wins. And every single week this is a really tough out, despite them not being a true contender. And I think for the Jets, you just want to see some competent offensive play, because they just haven't had that in
Yeah.
however many years. I think Geno might be able to give it to him.
Yeah, and a quarterback that can develop the guys around you. Like, you've got a young receiving core there. You want Cooper Jr. to get off on the right foot here. You want the running game to get going. A lot of things that have not been working for the Jets in recent years. Like, maybe Smith is at the very least can be the quarterback who offers that. Now, maybe he's a 1-year stopgap. Maybe there's a new coaching staff in New York next year. But I think in terms of where they could have gone the direction this season, I think this is as good as option as any, at least in terms of getting your team back on track and trying to develop. Now, obviously, if we're being realistic here, I think there's shots at actually getting that winning record, punching their ticket into the playoffs. Like, that's not going to happen. But I think it's probably best for the development of your team. The only question is, Marcus, do you now essentially play yourself out of a quarterback? Like, I feel like it's a conversation that should be had for a team that's trying to get out of the gutter like the Jets.
The reason I wouldn't worry about it too much for the Jets is they have 3 first-round picks next year, including Indianapolis's, which I think could potentially be, maybe a top 15 selection. I just don't think you worry about it that much, because if you've got let's say it's the 12th pick, the 15th pick, and that other first-round pick, which is the highest of the Cowboys and Packers, let's say it's 21st, you're going to be able to make a move to go up and get a quarterback that you want to go up and get. So I'm not that concerned. What I really think the Jets just need to do is establish a positive culture that, hey, we don't suck. We've got players on offense. Come be the savior of this team, and we'll put the right players and support around you.
Yeah, I agree with that mentality. And Aaron Glenn's job may be on the line as well. And so another reason to play Geno and hope that he can get things figured out for them. All right, from the highs, the heartbreaks, every headline, this is Stacking the Box, your source for NFL talk, powered by Fansided.com. And the voices at Fansided. Go check out their preseason coverage over at Fansided.com. All right, Marcus, let's talk about Joey Porter Jr. and just the drama with this whole situation. Now, this is a contract the Steelers thought they were, at least the fan base, the media, thought would be figured out early in the offseason. We know historically from Omar Khan, since he became the GM after the 2022 offseason, first was his 2023 draft. He likes to get things done and not have to sit on them. That's why they got Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington, Keanu Benton, 3 members of that draft class done and locked up already. We thought that Porter was going to be maybe the first of all those because of his importance to the team. He's missed the entire offseason. They're at a standstill, or as Mike McCarthy would call it, an impasse right now. There is no contract. And from the latest reports from me and Rappaport, it sounds like there's not even been so much as an offer made on the part of the Steelers, and they don't like the fact that he's not been out there with his team. And I think this essentially comes down to 2 decisions. Now, first, I should say this as well. Rappaport was very adamant that Porter would be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. And so if going crunching the numbers here, Devin Witherspoon just made $33 million per season, $101 million in total guarantees. Is Porter going to top $33 million in annual new money?
Not from Pittsburgh, probably not. I think there's a couple different things going on here. First of all, the Steelers as an organization have always prioritized pass rush over coverage. Like they have not invested a ton into cornerbacks. Now they have more so in the last 2 or 3 years, but this is a team that loves to draft, develop, and pay pass rushers. And that's why you're paying TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, all at the same time, on top of Cam Hayward and now Keanu Benton. I also wonder if they feel like we already have the league's most expensive defense. Can we really justify making it even more expensive with Joey Porter, despite him arguably being worth that contract? And I think the other part of it is, Tommy, it's a new coaching staff and it's a new defensive coordinator. And I think they would just like to see how he fits into into Patrick Graham's defense before they give him all this money. Whereas like someone like, Derek Stingley or Trent McDuffie or, Witherspoon in Seattle, we've seen them in multiple defenses or in the same defense. Yes. There's a little bit of a higher floor there. I wouldn't be surprised if this one gets even uglier before it gets resolved.
Yeah, it's really going to drag out. It does remind me a lot of the Micah Parsons situation before he was traded. Just
same agent.
Yes, there you go, right there. There was no leeway for anything. And it just seemed like there was no progress made. And that's the situation with Porter. There's been no progress made from the beginning until now. It makes you wonder what's going to happen. And based on Rappaport's comments, it's like he is going to be the highest paid corner in the league, which again is like, that's a question in itself. Should he be? And then if not, someone's going to pay him. And the price tag, he made it sound like, oh, this is the type of player that fetches first round picks or premium draft capital, as he called it. What do you think if the Steelers were to go that route and say, okay, worst came to worst here, we can't agree on a contract with you, we're way far off? What do you think the Steelers would get in a Joey Porter trade?
It's a good question because he's on the last year of his deal, which means you have to pay him right away. So that does take away a little bit of the value. My guess would be a second round pick and change, whether that's a player or additional draft capital. I don't think you're going to get a first round pick like the Chiefs got for Trent McDuffie, because McDuffie is a more proven player who has played in the postseason. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And even then, the Chiefs got the 30th pick in the draft, a late first round pick. My guess is it's more like a second round pick, but I don't envision a scenario where Pittsburgh trades Joey Porter Jr. because they are trying to win now. You don't bring back Aaron Rodgers and hire Mike McCarthy and sign all these veterans if you're trading away arguably your best player on defense, right? So I don't see that happening. I think they're going to play hardball here with him a little bit, knowing that they have the franchise tag in their back pocket next year, but that doesn't mean it's going to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, trading Joey Porter would run counter to what the team wants to do, and that's give it one more shot with a bunch of aging veterans on that roster. And so I feel like that's ultimately where it's going to land. But I want to go back to the actual contract situation right now with his agency. Why is there the push to be the number one guy? And I ask that because he doesn't have so much as a Pro Bowl. It certainly doesn't have an All-Pro, doesn't have any second team All-Pro votes. Like, have we ever seen a situation where a guy that has zero accolades in terms of like the personal accolades, and then really, if we're being honest about it, and this is coming from a Steelers fan here, one really good season, because 2024 was really up and down. He's been the most penalized corner, I think, over the last 3 years in the NFL. Does he have an actual case? Does his agency have an actual case to be the number one guy? Or is this, I mean,
No, but this is the way contracts work, unfortunately, in the NFL. And that's how someone like Tua Tagovailoa gets $55 million and becomes, I think, the third highest paid quarterback in the league when he signed his deal. Or even someone like Dak Prescott, who has more accolades than Joey Porter Jr., but doesn't have the same success as Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, becomes the highest paid quarterback in the league for 3 years in a row. A lot of it is just based on timing. And when you hire David Mulugheta, you hire him because he is the guy that makes these record-setting deals. He did it with Derek Stingley. He did it with Micah Parsons. And he's going to try to do it again here with Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be something to watch for sure, because I really feel like the way that Rappaport outlined this whole situation, the Steelers have essentially two options, three, if you can consider the franchise tag, and I think that's certainly on the table. But it's either you're going to make him the highest paid cornerback in the league, or you're going to trade him. And I would be really interested to see if teams come calling, what that value looks like. Are we talking, if you go as high as a first round pick, it could be tempting for the Steelers to get that in when they don't know what their future quarterback situation looks like either. All right. We'll sign off here with one random player who's impressed you through the first couple of weeks of the preseason so far. And obviously there's a lot of names. There's a lot of guys who aren't even going to be on NFL rosters this time a month from now. But is there somebody that's really stood out to you so far in the NFL preseason?
Yeah, Mike Washington of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Ashton Jeanty went down with an ankle injury. We're still waiting to hear how he's going to be. It sounds like it's not something super severe, but Mike Washington has had two big runs in each of the two preseason games. He's a freak athlete. I would not be surprised, given the way he runs and the fit with Clint Kubiak, if he has a role in that Raiders offense, even when Ashton Jeanty is healthy. And then one more, A.D. Mitchell, who we mentioned previously with the Jets. I just think he looks fantastic. He's running routes better than he ever has before. It feels like he's finally in the right offense for him. I've been really impressed by A.D. Mitchell so far in the preseason.
Yeah, both of those guys have been phenomenal. Washington, impossible to ignore, because when you get a running back that big and that fast, you watch him break out in space. Really interesting stuff there from him. And fantasy owners everywhere holding their breath when Ashton Genty went down. Thankfully, just the sprained ankle diagnosis there. I would have said Mike Washington as well, but I can give you a few others. Your quarterback, Joe Milton, your backup quarterback, Joe Milton III, he's looked phenomenal, but he's done this to us in the preseason before. And another one, Deshaun Stribling. I mean, this is a guy that I look at him and I'm like, he looks the part. He looks like he's going to be a big part of that 49ers offense. He's been extremely efficient so far in the preseason, just catching everything thrown at him. He already looks like a savvy NFL vet, and I bet he's going to have a pretty big role starting off.
I think he's going to lead the 49ers in targets, but we'll see.
All right, this is the Stacking the Box show. It premieres every Tuesday evening. Be sure to check it out. You can follow Marcus on X at Marcus_Mosher. Follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written work on stillcurtain.com. Marcus is on the Fansided NFL Network. Be sure to follow Fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. Thanks again for listening to Stacking the Box.